mama. Mountain back to Atlantic Ocean. Open me hills to book country. To educate, elevate, and promote. Yeah. Focus on Liberia. For Liberia, Liberia. For Liberia, yeah, 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 yeah. From Monday to Sunday. From Monday to Sunday. It's focus on Liberia. Talk about home affairs. Hey. In diaspora. Current affairs. Reliable information. History. Talking about culture. Politics. Education. Entertainment. Business. Sports. Advertisement. Articulation. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. From Monday to Sunday. Focus on.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Between the Headlines on Focus on Liberia. My name is Dennis Jai, and we are broadcasting from Atlanta, Georgia. In tonight's edition of Between the Headlines, we're going to be looking at the politics of profanity, complicity, and duplicity. How did we get here? And what do I mean? Permit me to go a little bit of satire on you there. The politics of profanity. There's a lot of cussing in our politics. And many people, the way we deal with it is we are complicit with it, right? Complicitly, or whatever way we say, it's okay, right? It looks like we are okay with it. And then there is also double tongue. People talk so. And that's it. But how did we get here? That people who cuss a lot are sometimes the most popular. That we tend to support people at the time when they are cussing, so long the curses are away from us, that's okay. But when the curses are directed at the person we support, then that's a no-no. How did we get here? And how do we get out of it? With me to discuss today, I have Mr. Anthony Sie, who is joining me from Studio 8. Welcome, sir.
Dennis, it's good to be here. Great topic, by the way. This is something that is ongoing in the Liberian community, especially in our politics. I detest that. I see duplicity all over the faces of the political actors and their surrogates. I'm annoyed by that. And so we have to discuss this and see how we got here and how people relate to this particular behavior. Let's do this.
Thank you. Let me welcome J. Victor Nabui, who's also a regular panelist here. Mr. Nabui, we are talking the politics of profanity. How did we get here? Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much, Dennis. Let's hope we can all make sense of this.
And let me welcome Elston, the legend Wisa. Welcome, sir. He says he's the guest of Niva County.
My greatest pleasure always.
All right.
My greatest pleasure.
Thank you. Let me welcome all our viewers from across the globe. What we're going to talk tonight is a broader subject. But before we even start discussing, I want you to share the show, welcome somebody, invite someone to watch. Today, the Senate signed a resolution for the establishment of the War and Economic Crimes Court. And that's where I want us, as a water cooler moment, let us talk about that briefly before we get on our topic for today. Right? So in the resolution, this first it came from the House of Representatives, now it's to the Senate. So what they are signing is for the establishment of a War and Economic Crimes Court. According to them, what they signed today, they want the establishment of, they want to first separate the two. The war crimes court will be established, internationally by international body, but the economic crime court should be local. And there were 27 who signed on that. 2 abstained and 1 was not present. So 27 out of the 30 senators. So there were 29 present, 2 abstained, and 27 signed, including 2 former warlords, Thomas Yaya Nimler and Prince Yomi Johnson. I listened to Prince Johnson. He said, well, if I didn't sign it, they would say, oh, the man's scared. But even though he's not really in favor, he still thinks that the TRC gave a recommendation, so there's nothing binding. And there shouldn't be. But because if he doesn't sign, they say the mayor is scared. So he signed it. But let's see. I don't think he believes that it's going to happen. So let me get your take on this, the resolution by the Senate. Let's start with Mr. Wisse. Mr. Wisse, the Senators signed the resolution. According to them, the president will still have to do something. Well, what's your take on the signing of that resolution today? Mr. Wisse.
Well, frankly, I'm going to be very reserved in my comments here relative to that. And I will start by saying it's laudable on the government's part, because this is one key reason why a lot of Liberians people opted to vote current President Bouaka, considering they said they were going to do things differently, and they were going to push this idea of a war and economic crimes court. Now, having said that, I'm going to be cautious to state here that several times in the past, we've seen instances where people would just bring to the table, it will have an outburst. People would talk about it, and Liberians have a tendency of sometimes just letting it to die down, and it would just go down and end up being nothing. So it is just our ardent hope that our country can take this very seriously. Like I said, we commend the government, and we want them to stick with it. I'm glad that the House of Senate, they were very welcoming of the idea, and we just look forward to see where it goes. But it gives this government a good reflection. I know that they have some hiccups along the way, but this one will give them a pat on the back, and we'll be very cautious, and we'll await the actual implementation. We await actual happiness for things to happen that will make some of us Liberians who were affected directly or indirectly by war to have some level of resolution to this process. We'll see how it unfolds.
If this war crime code will succeed or fail, where you think that will come from? Will it be the legislature, the executive, or the Liberian people?
It will be a conglomeration of all parties involved. Like for instance, on the part of the Liberian people, like I've heard in various sectors of our community, some people say, where do we get started with this idea of war economic crimes court? Some people say, who do we consider indictees? We're just looking at people who carry guns and stuff like that. So there are different areas it's being looked at. So you can see places where people will have hiccups. Other people could say, hey, you know what? This is a war economic crime court wanted to go as far back as X, Y, Z year. Other people say, no, we should start here. So we'll see how it all plays.
Thank you. Let me welcome Mr. Atman Salif. He's focused on Liberal Governance Advisor. Mr. Salif, welcome. Salam alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. Thank you, Dennis. It's a pleasure to be here.
And you look fresh from Ramadan.
Ramadan's still on, my man. I still have 1 hour.
Yeah.
Last day, so thank you. If it doesn't stop you from working, and it's just a religious obligation. So thank you for.
Thank you. Mr. Namboy, let me get your take on the signing of the resolution by the Senate today.
Well, first of all, Ramadan Mbrak, I believe, is the right expression to my brother here.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ja. It's about time. I think that this issue is lifted. President Salif failed to do that for obvious reasons. President Weah failed to do that. And so from the very day that this president he made that a part of his inaugural pronouncement, I had always said I have a great deal of respect for him for growing the backbone to lift this issue. I think for too long we have rewarded, bad behavior in government. There are people in government right now who shouldn't be there, but these people continue to walk the corridors of power. And I think that it's a good day for Liberia that this issue has been lifted. Obviously, there are going to be mistakes in the initial stages of it, but I think this is a very, very great move on the part of this president. I must commend him for that. You were asking my brother Wisa here as to where we think the failure might come from. I would think the failure, if there will be, hopefully there won't, but if there will be any hurdles, I think they will come from the legislature where the majority of the warlords are. It will probably come from the executive when Ms. Ellen was in the mansion, because it's been reported that she is one of the major architects, one of the major financiers of this war. So she's one of those people who bear the greatest responsibility if the reports are to be believed. There is extensive reporting on her involvement from the initial stages, the recruitment, financing, and execution of this war. There's several accounts out there, including the late Thomas Warway's letter. So with her not being the executive mansion, even though there are vestiges of her presidency still around, but I think the greatest opposition, if there will be any, I expect that to come from the legislature. I must say, though, I was quite surprised that Senator Johnson, who usually is the one who is the first to announce his reservation and sometimes even opposition to the establishment of a war crime court, was one of those who signed the resolution on the war crimes court. Senator Yaya Nimle, on the other hand, also surprised me because he's on record in recent times as being very vehemently opposed to the establishment of the War and Economics Crime Court. He believes that this president wouldn't be able to chew gum and walk at the same time. So he was advocating for delaying this process. But here we are today. I think this is a great day for Liberia. It remains to be seen now how we treat this process going forward. Like I said, I know there will be challenges, but I urge this president to stay the course and let's see this through. The purpose of this court, Senator Johnson, for instance,
we'll come to that more. Let me go to Mr. Salif quickly. He's still got to finish up his prayer. So, Mr. Salif, your take on the Senate resolution today.
Well, I agree with Mr. Nangwe. It's a great day for Liberia. I was skeptical a little bit when the House of Representatives signed the resolution, but having just listened to Senator Dillon a few minutes or hours ago on another network, really discussing in detail the substance and the behind-the-scenes negotiation, the thinking that went into the Senate version of the resolution and the substance of it, I'm very pleased that they are on the right course. In fact, they've recognized that the TRC Act, Article 10 of the TRC Act, which states that the Commission's recommendations will be mandatorily implemented, having followed all the other things that Act lay out, which is what the TRC did. So with that, what the Senate has done is said, look, we recognize that there's a current law on the books, and which is the act that enabled the TRC to mandate its recommendations to be fully implemented. The War and Economic Crimes Court, in fact, the TRC Commission called for what they call extraordinary tribunal to include elements of war and economic crimes. That recommendation, consistent with the TRC Act, must be implemented. And so the resolution that both houses passed with the Senate today has just given the president the mandate, the authority to go about as the leader, the executive leader of the executive branch of government and head of state, to go about putting in place mechanisms that will lead to the eventual establishment of the War and Economic Crimes Court. And one of which I will mention quickly is an establishment of a special bureau or Office of War and Economic Crimes at the Ministry of Justice.
Do you have confidence President Bouakai is going to follow through on this?
Well, listen, that's a political will question. It's a different question. What we had been concerned about was the legislative action, that there are elements in the legislature who feel any war and economic crimes court will be targeting them, and therefore we thought that such an act or legislation would not pass. But just what Mr. Nangwe was saying, some of the senators that signed this resolution today gave us encouragement that, look, listen, at the end of the day, the state is higher than any one particular individual. These people represent constituents. The constituents want a war and they want accountability. They want us to address impunity in Liberia. And if you are a savvy politician, you have to listen to your constituents. Look, no one person can threaten war and violence and go back to the bush. Never again in Liberia. I don't happen to believe so. So at the end of the day, I believe President Bouakai will be, will have all the necessary encouragement to move forward with this. And it's a train that's left the station, in my view.
I thought you said you will have no other alternative but to do it.
Well, no, I said that the Senate version of the resolution reactivated the TRC Article 10, invoked the TRC Article 10 and reminded the country that there's an existing law that gives the executive the authority to fully implement all recommendations of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission's report. And by virtue of that law, the Senate passed a resolution and enabled the president to move forward, to raise funds, to recruit, to hire an officer in charge, or perhaps, a prosecutor, whoever, however the term that, somebody who will lead that special office and begin putting in mechanisms, investigating. Because now remember, to establish such a court, you ought to investigate. Do we invite the United Nations? Is this going to be a UN-backed court? If it's a UN-backed court, you have to write the Secretary General. There has to be a Security Council resolution to that effect. The United Nations will have to make some commitment. If it's a hybrid court, which will mean that both international lawyers and judges and Liberian lawyers and judges. So all of those mechanisms, some of which, a large portion of which are in the hands of Liberian policymakers and politicians, but some will also be outside stakeholders' participation. So yes, they've given President Bouakai the mandate to move forward with this.
Thank you. Mr. Sia, let me hear your take on the resolution today. And Alan White was in chambers.
Yeah, Dennis, I don't want to dwell on Alan White. The resolution should be significant. One of the things that experts on this subject, to put it that way, have said all along is the lack of legislative approval for the War Crime Code to be established, because this is something for any executive branch of government to execute. They must have that mandate from the Liberian people. This time the executive got that mandate from the Liberian people through the representatives of the people. The Liberian people have overwhelmingly expressed the need for their code to be established. They've done it through protests. They've done it through writing of petition to the legislatures. The legislature and the legislature, some of them, all along have been waiting, and majority have not been willing. So this time, to have a joint resolution that started from the lower house overwhelmingly voted on it, the Senate to the Senate, and people felt that, well, the Senate may not add on it, and here we are. We have a full resolution giving the president the authority to go forward and enforce the establishment of the War and Economic Crimes Court. You asked a very good question. If this will fail, where will it fail? In my opinion, if it fail at this point, the failure will come from the executive branch of government, because the legislature has given it a blessing. for it to be implemented. So the executive branch of government now cannot say, hey, the people have not acted. I don't have the mandate to act upon this. But what I also want to see from the legislature is to make sure that it is funded. We would need international backing, since the court will have an international flavor, and rightfully so. The Senate, I want to see in the next budget that there is money, allotted for the implementation of the War and Economic Crimes Code. The president has expressly said that he's interested in the War Crimes Code, and to see that there's a resolution going to his desk, I'm sure that he will act swiftly and he will sign this into law, and it will become a law that he's going to act on. What I want to also see is that when the budget is being sent to the legislature, the president too, or the executive branch of government, should put money in there. Now, doing so will show to international partners who have interest in the subject to say, okay, the Liberian people now have acted. First, they passed a law for these things to be done. Second, they are putting their little meager resources behind this because they want these things to be done. Now we can come in. Now, our governing advisor has something that is, says something that is significant. The executive branch of government now has to go out because it has everything it ever needed to go forth with this. Now they can send a letter to the United Nations, as he said correctly, asking for help. They should have to seek a resolution from the United Nations. And once the United Nations acts on it, then we have pretty much all the elements that we need to see that the War Crime Code is implemented. But let us not be fooled here. This will take some time. For me, I'm saddened that they has taken this long. But here we are. We have something, that gave the executive branch of government now to act on. Let's see how it happens. So if it fails, most of it will be from the executive branch of government.
And I want us to conclude on this, on the next steps. Mr. Salif, what are the next steps, and what role the civil society or the Liberian citizens, the legislature, and also the executive, because they have the enforcer, what role will each of us play in seeing this through?
Yeah, very good question. So the matter is now in the hands of the president, the executive branch of government. The president will have to, in his wisdom, review the resolution, the joint resolution, and see if the president accepts the framework that the wisdom of the Senate in that joint resolution has established. If that is the framework that the legal advisors and experts in international law and experts in international human rights law who have studied and done this kind of work before will advise them. If this is the appropriate sort of framework that will logistically be able to move this forward, then the president the next step will be to establish that special envoy for War and Economic Crimes Code, or a special office for War and Economic Crimes Code, to begin devising the necessary logistical putting things together, essentially. What kind of prosecutor, how many Liberians, what would it look like? Would a court be, a brand new court be constructed physically, physical building? Will existing infrastructure be refurbished and repurposed? Would it be a hybrid court, Liberian experts, international experts, including prosecutors and judges and lawyers and so on, of all flavors, administrators, different experts? How will you involve the United Nations, other international partners? That's on the executive side. Coming back to other stakeholders, civil society, of course, and the media, the watchdogs of society, as they say, we have to hold the government's feet to the fire. We have to, keep yelling, keep doing the research and presenting facts and so forth and so on. So media and civil society organizations have very critical roles. The legislature, you have to come back to the legislature at some point, because once this special office is activated and establishes the framework for the extraordinary court, I'm hearing there's a count in the resolution where the Senate is calling for separating economic crimes from war crimes, or the war and the war crimes aspect of it. If that is the path they want to pursue, then there are other things to work out legally and legislatively. So they might have to come back to the legislature to actually pass a legislation that enables the court and spells out the authority of the court, the duration of the court, things like that.
Thank you. Mr. Wisa, you wanted to chime in quickly. I have a question for you, but go ahead first.
Yes. Yeah, I was going to say something. If you don't mind, I can say what I want to say. Then you can ask me the question if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so we all remember, how quickly we tend to forget. One of my esteemed colleagues earlier here said, he's kind of like baffled how long it has taken for this to come into effect. This goes to show that just the other day we were here on these very platforms, pushing the idea of a new government because the previous government had failed miserably, and I said that it was going to be easier to undo the previous government because of these simple things. Like, for instance, when the Liberian people asked the government of we are that terribly ran government that they wanted something like a war economic crimes code from public outcries. I remember he was at the airport, one of his trips, he was returning from overseas, and they intervened at the airport, and he squarely placed the war economic crimes court on the Liberian people. Oh, if the Liberian people wants, I'm just paraphrasing, if the Liberian people wants a war economic crimes court, so shall it be. Come on, why did they elect you president? The people gave you the gobble of authority to act upon it on their behalf. That's why government are structured in countries, so they can be the mouthpiece of the citizenry, because everybody cannot speak for themselves. That's why we have organized government. So this just goes to show that this is a better government just from the start than the previous government. So I thought to bring this as a reminder to us, considering where we were and where we are headed now. Dennis, you can ask me.
Thank you. Victor, it all boils down to the economics, right? Or money,
Right.
timing, priorities. So this is not, the process is long. And the Liberian people, especially at a time that right now in Monrovia there is heat, people are complaining for the lack of electricity, fires all over the place. People, when people don't take pay and you want to talk about war economic crimes code, they will tell you that war economic crime code will eat. So if the economy is bad, people definitely they're not going to have a taste for this.
Yeah, I agree with you, Dennis. I mean, as we're all saying here, this is a process. It's going to take time. This might even consume maybe the entire first half of this current administration's term. So it will take time, and hopefully within that time, the economy will probably taking a turn for the better. But yes, I believe also that economics are one of the motivating factors for this. I understand there's some initial $200 million that is being earmarked for this process, which I believe is also going to grow over time. But yes, I think the president realizes that this is going to be a long, drawn out process. So he wants to start as early as possible. Hopefully, they can get it done quickly. But yes, right now the war and economic crimes court is a very essential, necessary thing for Liberia. But right now, the bread and butter issues are front and center. And so, yes, if this must receive the appreciation that it deserves, the living conditions of the people have to improve. Because first of all, you must find something to eat before you begin to think about dressing up a little pretty. Less, worrying about other issues such as, integrity and probity. So yes, the economics have to be addressed, but I think this president knows that why he's addressing the economics concern is maybe a good thing to get this process started, because it's going to take time to put in place. I agree with Mr. Sheriff here that I know the Constitution allows only the judiciary and the legislature to set up courts. So I think this matter is going to come back either to the judiciary or the legislature if the war crime court, if the court is to be established, because I think they are given the powers to do that. So I think that's a good point there. I'm not sure I agree with Mr. Wisa. Mr. President Bouaka was in the government before this government. He was a second in command. You know, there's something to be said about that. There's a reason why you and I are not the second in command. So if you're a second in command, you carry a little bit more influence than you and I, the ordinary people. I don't understand why the push was never made, but again, we understand the expression of being in a garage for the whole time. So again, I'm not going to take it away from him. I have to give him the commendation for taking this step, because this is a very, very huge and giant step that he is taking. So I appreciate that.
And Mr. Wisa, the question I have for you is, remember
let me take 10 seconds.
Hold on. Remember the 100-day deliverable. We are probably less than 30 days away, and no car stock in fact, we don't even have the plan. It came out as draft. It went back, and we never saw it again. So if on top of that, if we still don't get 100-day deliverable, just the plan, and we are not sure if this is going to be achieved, adding war crimes court, economic crime court, don't you think this will be too much for a government that has not really accomplished even the first 100 days deliverables?
Yeah, understandable. Like, no one gonna negate. Like I always say, I'm not a blind follower of this government. I supported this government, but I try to be always as objective as I can be. It is true. We are in April already. We are going past 3 months, and the government 100 days deliverable everything may not come to fruition, but by virtue of the fact that they've given the Liberian people, or they have shown to the Liberian people that some major things that they pillow themselves on coming to power, like for instance, something like establishment of a war and economic crime code for atrocity method against the Liberian citizenry, coming to fruition. If they see these things being actualized, they will say, well, this is a 6-year period. We understand everything may not be, as punctual as they expected, or they foresee it to be, because there will always be hiccups, there will be challenges. But the fact that they are starting to show semblance of meaningful things being done that the Liberian people expect of them, we should afford them the opportunity to act. Like I always say, Dennis, it is only fair if you give somebody a job to do, to allow them to do it, and then you can critique them. Like I said, and I will continue to say, when President Weah came to state power, I was never a fan of his, not of his government, but I allowed him to operate for over a year, into the second year before I became critical. That doesn't hold for everybody. So like my brother said, President Bouaka was a vice president under Madam Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. Well, when he ran for his tenure this time, he told you that he's coming to do things differently, and we're starting to see signs of that. That's why I'm alluding to the past government, because President Weah were overwhelmingly voted the Liberian people, just around, I would say 64% of Liberians overwhelmingly voted him when he became president during his first go around, and then he got rejected during his second term opting for state power. So that is just glaring to see that, yep, he didn't do things as they expected. And Bouaka is starting to show signs that he will do things as expected. May not be as exact as it is in terms of the day and the time that he said 100-day deliverables, but he's starting to show signs. We look forward to more.
Mr. C, I want you to conclude on this so we can move on to our next.
Dennis, thank you. I want to maintain that having a resolution from the legislature giving the president or the executive branch of government the authority to go forth with the establishment of the War and Economic Crimes Court is significant. We want to see that money is placed in the budget in that direction as well. And that will actually send out a clear court statement from the people representatives that this must happen. The people have ever wanted it. It's just that our past leaders, especially those in the executive and the legislature included, fail us miserably on this particular issue of war crimes court. So we are at the place where no executive branch of government that can give excuse that, well, we don't have a resolution to add on. We don't have a bill or a law to add on. Now we have a bill. This is where President Walker now has an opportunity. He expressed that this is something he wants to do, and he has gotten the instrument needed to do it. So my hope is that irrespective of the economic challenges that we have on hand, he should follow through on this, because he knew of these economic challenges and he felt the need that this, has been delayed for quite too long, and he wants to go on with it. Dennis, you brought in a piece concerning the 100 days deliverable. Today marks 78 days. Same President Walker became president, meaning that we have 22 days left for us to mark 100 days. So in 22 days from now, I don't see how the 100 days deliverable can be achieved. And so I would say that the president is going to fail miserably on his 100 days deliverable. First of all, the 100 days deliverable plan is still a draft 22 days for the time set aside for this thing to be accomplished, to be out of the window. So how are they going to succeed? I have seen some people saying, well, the president might even go far past the deliverables, the 100-day deliverable. I'm like, who is this individual? 22 days left. We don't know. We don't even have the plan yet. But again, the president must be given that opportunity to follow through on the war crimes code. For me, I am skeptical. I don't trust our leaders. I will not praise any of them, but I will recognize the effort that they made, and this effort on the part of this government is significant. On the part of the legislature is also significant. Passing law has never been our issue, Dennis. I think you know this well more than I do. We have the law creating the LACC. The president failed to declare his asset. Even the very lawmakers who made the law, some of them have not declared their asset, including the speaker. He has not declared his asset. No record to that, right? And so our problem has never been that we don't have laws. Whether our people will implement the laws have been our problem. And now we have a law establishing a war crimes code. Will our leaders implement this law? If you look at laws they fail to implement, very easier ones, then you can breathe and live that this will be a challenge. We can only hope. And I don't want to hope hopelessly. This may not happen.
Thank you.
So quickly, I'll put say, if the Christmas is going to be good, you can tell from the eve, right? If the 100 days deliverable were going to be actualized, we would tell from the 99 days preceding those 100 days. I just want to say that to my brother. We said here, I think Liberian people are very, very accommodating and forgiving. If they see you making an attempt to deliver, I think they will give you the chance. But what is it exactly that we see that is being worked on here? Where is education? Where are we on health? Where are we on the roads? Where are we on fighting corruption? Where are we on anything that we think within the next 22 days they're going to deliver on this plan that they gave us, which is still in the draft form? So let's not kid ourselves. I think the war and the crimes court might help them there. I think there are a lot of us who are prepared to give them a chance, depending on how they handle this issue, because this issue is big. It almost is the root cause of our current problem that we have in Liberia. The impunity that exists in that country, the pillaging of the country's coffers with impunity, and then all of these people with all this stolen wealth. You understand? I mean, some of them are the richest people in town today. Where did this get this money? From other people's backyard. They have to give it back. They have to give it back. So let's see where this crime code, whether it's economics or war, where the code is going to take us. I think the current administration, it deserves commendation for finding the spine to lift this issue.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are just joining us, this is Between the Headlines. Our topic today is the politics of cursing, the politics of profanity, and the duplicity. How did we get here? And a little background. Of late, the issue of Representative Yoka Koluba having a press conference where he has, insults on the president and his family, that became news, and a lot of us were appalled by Representative Yeke's insults, the vulgarity, and some say the lies. So, but Yeke has been doing this, Representative Yeke has been doing this for almost 5, 6, 7 years now. So it's not new. And Representative Yeke is not alone. We also saw talk show and other politicians like Henry Costa. He took 1 year to insult Alexander Cummings. And I mean, all the other insults on President Wee and everybody else. Then there is another guy called Key or Prophet Key. And all these people that do the insults, they are very popular. They have huge following. People love to listen to them. So the very first thing is this culture of profanity that has become very popular. What happened? Why is it so, Mr. Nawe?
Dennis, I don't know where to begin, but let me tell you this. Our people, where I'm from, in the southeastern part of Liberia, Borobo, they say when the child is born and you begin to feed the child cassava water, that's what they're going to drink as they grow up. If you begin to feed them milk, that's what they're going to drink when they grow up. Yeke is the making of this very government.
I wanted to broadly speak about where this whole cussing business.
Well,
that people that cause are popular, and a lot of people, they have huge following.
Yes, I listened to Prophet Key, whom you mentioned, explain once that this is intended for shock value, right? As you have Howard Stern over here, right? It is, people find that tantalizing, appealing, and so they'll, you want to grab people's attention. That is my understanding, but that you may say for entertainment, disc jockeys and stuff like that. Not for honorable people. But yes, people like Henry Costa and Prophet Key, they grab our attention because of the way they express the issues that we all know are dear to us that we could not express in the way they do, which is, of course, unacceptable. I tell my wife and I tell friends all the time, they may have information because people want to give them information because in protest, maybe because of what they don't like in government. So sometimes, I listen because they're bringing information, but their delivery is unacceptable and repugnant. Should be rejected by any well-meaning person. So that is what this
job is. Cussing popular. That's what I want you to.
Why is it popular?
Yeah, why is cussing popular?
I just said I believe many people it's a shock value. People are shocked that anyone is able to say this and still get away with it. I guess that's where your question is going. Why is it allowed to happen? And then you can say freedom of speech, right? But again, we all have all kinds of rights. I have a right to climb on a bridge and jump in the bottom, to the bottom of the ocean. But am I going to do that? No, because I'm a responsible person. Because you have a right doesn't mean you should always exercise that right. I don't believe that the types of Yeke Koluba to be occupying the political space.
And we'll come to that. Let me go to Mr. Sie. Mr. Sie, cussing now is popular in our politics. Why so? What happened?
Dennis, I want to believe that values have completely broken down in our country. We don't have values that much. We don't see value in what is good. For some reason, if one is conducting themselves in a responsible and decent manner, it is not attracted to our people anymore. I'm not sure I can provide that answer. Why cussing has become attractive, but I know that it is attractive now. Maybe it could be coming from frustration that people have looked up to political leaders far too long and they have failed. And people feel that they need to be chastised. And maybe they feel that the only way they can be chastised is to throw invectives at them, because that's the easier thing you can do. You can arrest them, you can beat them, so you curse them, you insult them, and by doing so, you be shaming them, and so that's what it has come to, and that's what I think it is. People are frustrated that we put so much trust in these individuals for them to deliver for us, for them to be able to lead us, and they have not been able to lead us. The best way to chastise them is to just throw insult at them, and the reason is because doing the right thing has not worked for us. And in fact, doing the right thing is not the way to go for us. It's a difficult kind of question to really give an answer that will really make logical sense. But my reading is it's coming from frustration, and maybe Salif can help us here.
Mr. Wisse, right now, if you are cussing, people like to listen to that. Why so? What happened? Why
Well,
is
Dennis, my brother, I'm going to take this in segments. Well, I'm going to take this in segment, and this is how I see this. This is a harsh reality. We've lived with the man, Honorable Yeke Koluba. We call him an honorable man. That tells you a lot. So we
I wanted to leave Yeke alone for a minute.
cannot continue to see this persist.
Mr. Wisse,
at some point in time, we have to hold ourselves
Mr. Wisse, can you hear me?
accountable. Yeah.
Can you hear me? We'll come to Yeke as a person. I want us on the surface deal with this.
Yeah, now I can hear you.
Profanity. Why is it so popular, and why is it so attractive?
It is popular nowadays because I think people are cognizant of the Abdullah Kamara laws in Liberia. We give people the right to express themselves, which is misconstrued, by the way, to some extent. But then, yes, another reality about it, this is the social media's age. Things like these persisted in time past, but were not as prevalent as it is now, because we have the social media where people can go online and they say what they want from the bedroom, and you have little to no rights to restrain them from saying it, because they have their rights to their internet access. So that's one permanent reason. But this is where I draw a dichotomy between people who are like advocates overseas versus a man who we call an honorable man. If Honorable Yeke Koluba was doing this in previous government, and we all see now he have reversed the role and starting to do with this government, so that he maintain his popularity in the opposition, they should tell us something that, listen, we cannot continue to move in this path. We should put our foot down, because to some extent, every well, it's a reality. That's why I refer to it as a harsh reality. We have reached to the point now we have to put our feet down and be like, look, we enable this man.
Mr. Wisse, why would profanity be
we enable this man?
Opposition? Why
because this is how people see it. They see it as a means of pressuring the powers that be, the government that is seated. Like, for instance, when Yeke was being very vile and using invective on people in the government of WIA, people who were opposed to WIA, like UP people or what have you, they all supported the idea. But now we have to hold ourselves accountable and be like, look, this man did it to WIA, he's doing it to Barker, he will do it to the next president. So let's try to put our feet on the ground and come up with some laws and make him not so honorable. If he's going to do this and sit in the house, people have to put their feet down and be like, this man either be expelled or be cautioned first. People talk to him, bring the religious leaders, bring the imams, bring whomever to talk to him. And if he doesn't desist, he has to be removed from the house somewhere or other, but something has to be done. Now, drawing the dichotomy with Yeke and people who let me just land on this, Dennis. I don't want to miss saying this. Drawing a dichotomy here with Yeke, who's working in government in the house, versus people who are in the diaspora with the like of Costa, who runs a show from overseas, or Key, who runs overseas. You can only but do so much to them because, like I said, this is the internet's age. They have the access. Now we don't have to feed into it, but the reality is they are not comparable equally with somebody who worked in the honorable House of Representatives. This is why I'm driving up. There is a line there, and we have to put our feet down against this man because this attitude cannot consist persistently, continue in government. Something has to be done at some point in time.
Thank you.
Quickly before Mr. Sherry comes in, if you don't mind.
Okay.
No, I really like the point that Mr. C struck here. I don't entirely disagree with Mr. Weiser, but I think what he's making is quite on point. That frustration. I think this is an outgrowth of what we were discussing. The apparent sense of entitlement in government, the impunity in government. Our people see no other way to register their frustration because these people, they go scot-free, and so the only thing they have available to them is to denigrate them and use these kinds of expression, and many of them don't have the capacity or ability or the opportunity to do that. And so these guys who command these platforms, I think they have that outlet to do that, and so I think that's one of the reasons why people find them, very attractive.
Thank you, Mr. Salif. Profanity had been, time immemorial, right? You disagree, you insult. Sometimes you use that to calm yourself. In our politics, have become very popular. Why is that?
It's just difficult to pinpoint, but I will surmise that this has to do with the general breakdown of law and order since the inception of the civil war, political conflict in Liberia. Liberia wasn't always like this in terms of it was not always perfect, but it wasn't always like this. In where we were so read and grown up, and so it was we're a very respectable society. I like to believe it still is, where you respect the elders. It's a very religious country as well. We may be governing in a secular way, but it's very whether you are of any faith tradition. It's a very religious, spiritual country. People have reverence for age differential, even you and your siblings. So I'm older than you. You'll give me the seat. You will give me, look, if somebody will get in your family vehicle and they'll ask you to get up and get that. Just because you're giving them a ride, my dad did that to me. You're giving somebody is raining and there's a couple and they stop, they pick them up, and we, the youngsters, had to get up and find a spot anywhere, sit on the floor someplace. But these total strangers, you have to respect them. Why? Because they're older than you. That sequence of arrival, that respect for wisdom, respect for that African tradition, and also as a matter of religion and faith. So that's the kind of people we are. But think back 30 years ago, 20 years ago, since the total breakdown of law and order in the country, you now have a generation that largely grew up, came of age, 1980, 1989, in the 2000s. In the 1990s, the younger ones are in their 20s, who were born in just recently. And all they've known is a society that doesn't seem to have it together. A society where if you went to policymaker, you went to look at institution, you'll find semblance of impunity that people can get away with things. You don't have to stand in line to get on the bus, or you don't have to stand in line at a bank necessarily. You came in, you have power, you're well known, you have money, people went ahead and did transaction for you, that kind of thing. That is the culture in which we are. Okay, and then you are alluding to freedom of speech. It's a constitutional right. There's that one, because we're talking about one particular politician who uses profanity, and somebody said, "What law has this person violated?" Okay, so you're trying to restrict speech. You're trying to, so yeah, so even people who use profanity and invectives and real sort of vocal words and expression towards people whom you wouldn't have directed that kind of insult to. And they do it with free conscience. You have to wonder why. Where is this coming from? So societally, there's that broad problem of lack of healing. All kinds of system broke down, and then individually, I'm not a psychologist or psychiatrist. I'm not here to play that. I'm just saying. I mean, you don't have to be. What you read, if if you read these things, um you get to see it. That there are issues of mental health challenges in our country. Let's just face it. I mean, from the war years, extreme poverty in which people are living, the government is not very responsive to the needs of people. And then you are looking around you and seeing all kinds of tragedies happening. If you have a lack of good health system, hospital system, somebody gets into an accident, there's a trauma, and the person dies from curable or treatable diseases and things like that. There's fire outbreak everywhere. You live in darkness, and the electricity is not. So all of these basic social services, the social contract where the government should uphold their own, the citizens uphold theirs, there have been breakdown in these things, and that's what we're trying to build. We're trying to really pick up from that. In my view, some of these things contribute to how we behave on social media, how we behave in person, to our families, our friends, and society in general. Now we can hear you, Dennis.
Thank you. Even in my village, if you curse, there's a penalty. And then worst of all, if you curse a woman as a man, besides them finding you chicken and oil and stuff like that, they may order your peers to beat you. And so, but nowadays you see that let's look at the reward system. Even I have a dog here. If you are training a dog, you reward them anytime they do something good. So when we are rewarding invectives, vulgarity, profanity, where does that leave us? Because there is one thing for a total breakdown, Mr. Salif, of society but when we start to reward them, then I think we are at a different level.
No, that way politics comes in here as well. And we haven't really managed to channel our political emotions, our political expressions, coupled with our, constitutional free speech rights. And it's something. I mean, I go back to that societal disintegration as part of the social fabrics, because when you develop in a country, there's the economic development aspect of it. There's a modernization, the physical beautification aspect of economic opportunities of the country. But you also ought to focus on building the social fabric of the society. You ought to focus on building the cultural tenets and practices of society, fix the history so that people have something to they have a shared vision, a shared narrative about history that they all accept and buy into. I mean, you don't have to I'm not saying we have to be a monotonous society where we all agree on one thing, but we have to know that the national symbols mean something. History, this event in history and that event really meant something. It means something today. Those kinds of things. We have a checkered history when it comes to that. So specifically with the politics, if you're alluding to why if you celebrate certain people use invectives against opponents in politics, it's where I think this what I've been talking about is coming in, because if you have a disciplined system, you don't have to insult someone, use profanity on them before you can totally express a disagreement with them. You can disagree with someone by being very polite and express it as nicely as possible, but I disagree with them as logically, as powerfully as possible as well. It is a culture that people believe that is the ambience in which they are. They believe they can get away with anything. If you speak in a certain way, you use certain words, and people want to listen to you because you're insulting their enemies, you're insulting people they like. So I've even heard that some individuals pay certain talk shows the host to insult their enemies or their friends or people they don't like. They really go after you that way to disgrace this person publicly. I mean, so where would that come from? Where do you think that is coming from? To me, it ought to be some kind of shared thing that we should try to fix.
Thank you. Let me welcome Jimmy Eastman. So Jimmy, my problem here, we remember the John McCain moment when John McCain repudiated his own supporter and said, no, ma'am, we can do it this way. We don't see politicians or Liberian politicians that way. When and I'll call names here, when Henry Costa took a year to insult Alexander Benedict Cummings, he was supporting now President Bouakai, and Mr. Bouakai at that time did not say a word, right? When other politicians, when Yeke Koluba was insulting President Weah, Mr. Cummings was piling around with Yeke Koluba. They went to Grand Jury, and that was his campaign buddy. So we don't see any form of repudiation from political leaders when these things are happening. So what do you make of that?
Thank you. It's
would that be one of the reasons why we have this culture of profanity?
Well, tell you the truth, there's a science around cursing, swearing, as they call it in certain places, using the use of profanity, but they call it the science of swearing. That's how the book people look at it. But it means using cuss words. There's a whole science behind it. They say it even has a cathartic effect. That is, it gives you some kind of release for some people. They release their emotions by swearing, by saying something. You see, well, a lot of times you notice that when people get angry, that's the time, with some people now, that's the time they start using abusive words because it releases emotion. But there are two different things I see going on here. There is one thing we do, and that is denigrating each other, where we try to bring somebody down by saying all kinds of negative things about them. And then there's a separate category of swearing. So when you cussing on the woman, as we put it in our Liberian way, you're not telling anything bad about a person. You are just using profanity. But what I saw in politics a lot, you are trying to denigrate, to subtract from somebody else's allure or attraction. And so you're trying to dead the name, as we say, dead them. So there are two different things going on here. One is to bring somebody down, and the other one is just to simply use profane words to express yourself. And if we look at it, it is a limitation in some places. And then at the same time, some people identify when you use certain profanity, it's almost like reaching certain people it appeals to. Mm-hmm. So you form that camaraderie with those people who like to cuss like that.
So why does this cussing appeal to a very good percentage of our population?
But that was just a watcher, my man. But it appears to a lot of people because it's outrageous. I think the brother Nangbe were talking about it. It's a shock effect. Mm-hmm. It's the shock effect they want to hear. I have seen women listen to Prophet Key, and they'll be laughing. I think it's the shock to hear somebody seeing all those kind of things. It's the shock effect that appeals to them. And it seemed to with Howard Stern, as he was mentioning, he had that shocked effect. So some people like to hear it because of the shocking effect of it. They like dirty stuff. You know, some people like to watch pornography. Some people like to watch slaughtering and all the kind of things. There's certain things that appear to appeal to human beings that are not altogether very clinically sanitized. And one of them is cursing.
Thank you. Mr. Nabe, let's go to the way we have normalized and we have supported when the cursing is on the other side. Let me use Henry Costa, for instance. When he was cursing Benedict Cummings, Mr. Boakai didn't say anything. Because he was supporting Mr. Boakai. When he was cursing Mr. Boakai, even putting out his medical records, Mr. Weah didn't say anything because Mr. Weah was benefiting. And this whole cycle goes on and on and on. I mean, Yeka Koluba is another example. The key mayor is another example. You know, by the time you are cursing our opponent, we are all happy. Only time we think that is bad is if it is the other way. Such a duplicity. Why so?
No, I mean, I absolutely agree with you, Dennis. I don't have much to offer on that, but to agree with you, I think our people, we all need to wake up because, you know, I think the late Doe popularized the expression that our town tribe is not for, you know, right alone. If John is insulting me and or insulting you, and I find it funny, you know, tomorrow John will be insulting me, and you might not find it, you know, unacceptable. You might find it funny too. I think this is the case we're all experiencing here. Just like you rightly said, these people, you know, when they're aligning with us, then we you know, they are our heroes until they turn against us. Just like you said, all of them here have been around almost all of the politicians. The Yeke, you know, with Weah, with Boakai, with Cummings, you know, all of these people. And I think we all need to wake up and give it a thumbs down that this kind of behavior deserves, no matter whether they're standing in your corner or not. I think we need to call them out. This is unacceptable. It is unintelligent, you know, and it doesn't give a good moral example for our young ones.
But J. Victor Nambi, let me ask you a question, huh? Well, especially in the case with Yeke. You don't think that Yeke does this purposely to give himself recognition?
No, obviously,
attention to him.
Jimmy, I don't disagree with you. I think Yeke is crying out for the attention. What I'm saying is, if he's cheering you on, Jimmy, and he's cursing me out, I think you, Jimmy, should call him out and tell him that is unacceptable. Just like Dennis said with John McCain and the lady who said Obama was a Muslim. Whether they are supporting me or not, I think when they fall offline, I mean, you know, out of character, I should be able to call them out. I think that's the only way. That may not be the only way, but that's one of the ways I think we can arrest it. I think it should come from us when they are with us. We have to chastise them and tell them, look, I like your support, whatever it is, even if it will cost me the presidency, let it. But this is unacceptable. He is my political rival. He is not my enemy. And therefore, it is unacceptable for you to be under my roof and throw the fire, you know, under his roof. It is unacceptable. So that's the point I'm making. I'm sure you don't disagree with that. So until we rise up and do that, unfortunately, Dennis, I think it's going to continue for a while. That's one part of it. Two, this man is an honorable man. You say you didn't want us to, you know, to reduce it to Yeke, and I agree with you, but I can't resist the temptation to say, look, he is an honorable man. There's a reason why you are not called honorable when you walk the street, or I'm not, because we are not in the honorable house of legislature. This man should be censured by his colleagues. Why can't they do that? Why can't the speaker censure this man and say, look, your behavior is not representative of your office, and therefore, henceforth, you know, 1, 2, 3, and 4. They should be able to also do that. Yeke cannot. I mean, look, yes, he challenges some of the most difficult issues, and I understand that he will speak out and bring out some of the issues to light, which is good. But he can be taught, I believe, to find a better way to express himself. His expression is unacceptable. No matter, you know, which side he's supporting, I think we should let him know that, and the rest of them, that this kind of verbiage is unacceptable. It's unintelligent. It is crude. It's just wrong. It's uncouth, and you have to knock it off. So we have to, I think, especially when they are supporting us, I think that's when it's going to be more effective, when we tell them to stop it, to knock it off.
Mr. Sia, these people are actually popular. If you were to walk the streets of Monrovia, or if you went to Nuclear Town and you go wrong against someone like, let's assume Prophet Key was living there, right? Because of that insult, people will vote for him. So this thing is more about, it's not always about, okay, this person supporting me, so I'm going to take the insult so that I can win. Actually, the people that are insulting, they are popular, and they will take them over people that are not insulting. As Pierre Lumumba said, we canonize thieves and vilify the saints. So this thing even goes a step back, because Yeke was elected. If Yeke runs again, probably he's going to win. People will tell you if Charles Taylor comes back, he's going to win. Prince Johnson, after killing people, he was the third in the election 2005. And this kind of thing goes on and on. So is it a cultural thing that what is bad is more attractive? If you try to be decent, it's not even cool anymore.
That is what it actually is now. The scenario you try to paint for us to get a clear picture is so true. If I were to say, well, I'm from Negro Town, and assuming Prophet Key, is a resident of Negro Town as well, the guy will beat me. All right, because the profanity that he puts out there embodies the pains and the frustration of the ordinary people in Negro Town who are suffering from the lack of electricity. Who do they blame? They blame the political leaders, they blame the politicians. And Prophet Key is dealing with them the way he knows best, that the ordinary people understand. And I'm here struggling to try to preach morality and all that to them. That doesn't fly. The pains and the agonies that they are going through, my language actually don't reflect that at all. My language does not reflect that. And so they will vote for Prophet Key over me any day, anytime. Why did Yeke continue to win? We're talking about Oro, one of the I don't know, for lack of a better word, prominent communities in Liberia. Oro is electing Yeke Koluba. What is Yeke known for? Inventives. And the guy is statical now. He takes the opposition side because he's not sophisticated when it comes to the issue of governance. All right. So he said, well, the easier thing is to just be opposition. The political leader will always fail our people. And he, as much as I'm channeling the people pain, by insulting these political leaders, they will be on my side. Now, the guy was on the other side insulting we are, and what we saw, the guy beat great people in that particular district. The first time he won CDC chairman Omamba Mono. He dragged him. And CDC, one of the popular political parties in Liberia, went against this guy with everything they got. And he beat them because he was on the side of the opposition. Now the guy looking at it say, well, the Bwaka old man may not succeed. He's making a lot of mistakes. Let me capitalize. The people may not agree with me now, but down the road, when Bwaka stays close, the people will come on my side and I will win. I think that's the guy calculation. Look, society is completely broken down because leaders have not been able to provide excellent leadership. The example you brought in about McCain, is significant. When Cummings was rolling with Yeke, he even went with him in what's the play, Grand Jury. Cummings came to the microphone, made excuses for Yeke, justify Yeke's behavior of insulting leaders in our country. Cummings did so. Now President Bwaka on his other side, when he was killing the Bwaka, he said no word to Yeke that lost. You are from Lofa. And the Lofa people have this thing now, well, they don't insult others. They are the pioneers of Liberian culture and tradition. And they will say that. But this is a prominent son of Lofa who is insulting an elder who is now the president of the country. Bwaka endorsed that behavior with his silence. when Yeke was doing that because it was bringing him political dividend, just as when Costa was doing it to Weah and was doing it to commies, he sat there and did nothing because it was bringing him political dividend. And now here we are. It has become of the order of the day because our leaders allow these things to happen when benefit them. Think about it again. This Prophet Kiga, this guy went live and insulted Waka. Insulted Waka's mother. But this is a guy that supported Waka. And Waka has condoned his behavior. Look, society is broken down. And the reason is our leaders have not been able to stand up to this kind of behavior. They don't discourage this kind of behavior. They don't denounce these individuals. They don't purge the individual from their supporters. They don't tell the Liberian people, that man, I don't want his support. Yeah. I don't see any political leader who will have the guts to say, look, this behavior from this person who is my new supporter, I don't condone that. I do not even want your support. Will any of them speak publicly to do so? No, none of them will do so because of politics. And this is shameful. And when they get in politics, what do? It's all about their pockets. And they don't take us anywhere. So I don't know how we get out of this. I think we can get out of this if our political leaders start to, denounce these individuals, reject their support, and maybe we will get somewhere. Until then, and also more so if they start to address, the pains and the frustration and the suffering of our people, then our people will have reason to listen to them. But in as much as they're not doing it, the insult going against them, actually appease our people because they have failed our people. This is a terrible place to be right now.
Thank you. Mr. Wisse, Focus on Liberia had a poll that was conducted. Mr. Wisse, there was a poll conducted by Focus on Liberia. What do you make of Representative Yeke Koluba openly insulting President Boakai? A, free speech is guaranteed under our laws.
We said wait.
Wisse, are you listening to me or are you watching something else? All right. So the poll say free speech is guaranteed under our law. Insulting is not a crime. 12%, that's what 12% said. 37% said he was Boakai's friend when he was insulting President Weah. What goes around comes around. 22% says such indecent behavior must be penalized by impeachment, recall, or a vote of no confidence. Then 29% said this is pure insanity. Yeke needs help. Mr. Wisse, why is Yeke Koluba doing this to President Boakai? Is it that, according to the poll, what goes around comes around, or Yeke is crazy?
No, it is what goes around comes around. And we must be realistic with this. And the first step here is admittance. And all of us on both sides of this have to admit that we enabled this gentleman attitude today. When he was doing it to tailor those are all who support this government, we were saying nothing. And now he's doing it to this government. So we must start to admit and then start to take the next step. The next step would be find a way to take action against him. Even the senator, the People's Senator Dara Dillon alluded to that today on one of the local platforms when he said that the best thing we can do now is to not let this attitude of Yeke to persist, because he will always just rotate. When one government comes into state power, he will roll with the opposition so that he keep his fame or his popularity amongst the people. So let's admit that we all are wrong on all sides of the spectrum, because my colleague here just alluded to Mr. Cummins saying nothing when Yeke were on a political trail with him. We've seen it with the Boakai's people when he was opposed to George Weah. Yeke was opposed to George Weah. And same for President Boakai today. The Weah people, I have a friend who opposed and were critical of Yeke to the letter, but today he posts Yeke on his page every day because Yeke is not doing it to Boakai. So we have to admit, firstly, that we are all wrong, one way or the other, in allowing this attitude of a man who professes to be an honorable man and going around using invectives on people, and start to correct the wrong by out of firstly bringing him to a body, out of like the religious community, talk to him, have a sit down with him, and then if nothing happens, he persists with such attitude, they can take a stern action,
He said he was not
whether
going to
to
listen to
relieve him of his
religious
post.
leaders.
But
I said
something
when he
has to
was
happen. I mean, I'm just
when he
using
was
the
talking
religious leader to
with his
mean
tailor, he said, I
that
would not listen to them.
right, right, right. But something has to happen. Meaning, the first step is to engage him constructively. Bring
Thank you.
him to a table. Look, Mr. Yaka Koluba, you are an honorable man. This doesn't reflect honorability. So going forward, we need you to make some adjustment. If he doesn't do that, then you can take a harsher step on him if it means to relieve him of his position. But something has to be done. We cannot continue to go in this direction. Something has to be done. That's the bottom line of this.
Thank you. Mr. Salif, when it comes to politics, I was reading one politician, he said, to even throw eggs at a politician or rotten tomatoes, that is allowed, right? So you can throw eggs, you can do some smaller things. So caution, insult. I kind of researched this. I talked to FOL legal analyst. I said, can the Buakai family or somebody that sue for slander? He said, well, yes, they can sue, but for this to have weight,
public figures, they,
yeah.
Listen, there's a thing called political rabble rouser. A political rabble rouser, and that rabble rousing effect is what people enjoy. It's what draws support to him. You are saying, oh, why do people support him? Why is he winning all the vote? Rabble rousers are people who say things ordinary people will not say or do safely, politically, without losing their careers or without losing office. Okay. Here in the US, you see Donald Trump is at the extreme of rabble rousing. He's one who will say racist things, the most outrageous xenophobic things that other people would not say because they're not politically correct. Yeah. And even Mr. Trump has resorted to vulgarity, profanity. He's calling, he's showing Joe Biden's picture and some of his supporters back of their pickup truck, tied up and all the kinds of imagery that is teetering to the brink of violence, right? And the question is, why is he enjoying such high support among certain populations here in the United States? Same thing. We can, go back in history, look at different African political rabble rousers and say, or even, if you went to South America and say, why are they so popular? Why are people behind these people supporting them? In addition to, or aside from what I said earlier about sort of the societal underpinning and some of these things we ought to fix, that resulted from our wars and all of that, there's an effect that people go after. The likes of Prophet Key or the likes of a Yeka Kolba will say things that to our enemies that we can say ourselves safely. But he's saying it, we like that. He's saying it because it's demonizing the other person, it's reducing them, bringing them down, putting them down, talking down on them, right? And so I like that. And the second aspect of that rabble rousing is the one who exposes things. So if the political elite, they're corrupt, they go with impunity, they're not serving their people. It's the one who speaks to them. So he seems to be speaking for the masses, the little people who say, look at this check, they're bribing me, they're trying to bribe me. If that's what it was. So other people would have signed up for that thing and collected that check and wonder. Now he's saying they're bribing me, and he's exposing that. Same thing he did with President Weah. And those on the other side, I agree. They didn't say anything really to say, look, this is wrong. Just generally, it's beneath your office. You don't fit to hold this kind of office. If you behave in this erratic manner, in this kind of, it's that's unprofessional. Is I'm looking for words to describe it, because that's even not the right description, but you get the idea, right? So he's rabble rousing. He's exposing things. He's calling his name calling. He's dropping things, because on the one hand, he is privy to certain information that his constituents or his followers are not privy to. So whatever he claims to be exposing might have some iota of truth, though, because he's a certain lawmaker. You go to committees and you must get some security briefings, secret briefings, and so he knows some things that we don't know, and he's daring, is exposing these things, and that's where, to me, you see the support. Aside from to say, other than to say, if you were my friend or my relative or something, I was look, man, you need some help. I don't want to diagnose you of anything from a distance. I'm not qualified to do, but we'll seek some kind of professional help to really help and protect him as an individual, for his family.
Thank you. Jimmy, when I made a research, it says slander, insult is not a crime unless he accuses President Bouakai of a crime. Let's say you stole money.
False information.
Right. So, but still he can sue.
Right. Slander is when you provide false information about somebody that's untrue, but you can cuss any way you want to cuss.
You can cuss, and then even if you say, for instance, that and I don't want to say this, like, the children are not your children. Let's say that's false information, but you can sue for that.
Not a crime. And plus, for public figures, the threshold for slander and libel is very high. Defamation, all of that is the threshold is very high. You are a public official, you are a public figure. People will say things about you. There will be rumors out there. There's things in the tabloid, all kinds. That's kind of what you sign up for, right? So in order to really sue and succeed, you have to show that some kind of injury has happened.
You have to show injury. Exactly.
You have to show injury.
Can the president sue?
The president can sue. It depends on what. In this case, they're just insulting him. There's some.
The president can sue. If the president can't be sued, how can he sue?
The president has immunity.
He won't just pass for slander, though.
He cannot just exactly. That's why I'm saying the threshold is very high for those two categories: slanders and libel.
He alleged that the president white hand affairs.
What do we do with the likes of Yeke?
Excellent question.
Just swallow it.
Excellent. I think the learned brother Ahmed Salif nailed it. He's a rabble rouser. He incites and provokes people and crowds by his behavior and his utterances. So that's the category he falls in, because he's well known for doing this. Okay, so you have to know what he is. Now, what do we do about it? Well, the House can. I remember when they got the extra. What did they? They moved Chair Chipo from the House or from the Senate, because they say his action and behavior was inconsistent with the norms of the House or something like that, and they ended up removing him. But that's the only thing they can do. But I don't think that would stop him. I think he will always be. He wants to be a rabble rouser. And sometimes this is how he gets attention. Now, some of the things he's saying are not altogether
true. Jimmy said
they're not. They're not completely wrong. Sometimes he is exposing some things that are going wrong. His methods, his methods is what we can make one a question. Right. But sometimes he's bringing some things to light. That's what he's really doing. And he's talking about things, and the way he goes about talking about it, you might want to refine it, but that is his way of expressing it. So I believe he will not. That will not stop. But what has to happen if the Senate or the House finds that his behavior is incompatible with the position he holds, then they should do something about it. That's who has to do it.
Jimmy, in 2021, the House voted to. They say he was insulting the president. I think it was Thomas Fowler who brought that forth, and the voters say, hey, what we're going to do is we're going to suspend this man. He's not going to get paid for, I think, 3 months because he's insulting the president. And it was Carlos Gray who said, oh, no, we can, and stuff like that, right?
I mean, be eating auto code for that stuff. He
So
been
this
in
has
and
been
out.
tried before.
Yeah.
And there are rules. The House of Representatives, and so too does the Senate, have rules. So if he hasn't specifically violated those rules, you can't just censure him. You can't just move an article, advance an article of impeachment or removal. It has to be grave crimes that spelled out. That's not what he's doing. He probably has a legal advisor of some sort. Like, he knows he's rabble rousing, but he's really walking certain lines. For instance, when he issues threats, he says it in a way that looks like in self-defense. He says, look, if you do this to me, we don't want problem. We don't want to bring conflict. We're not, but if you do this to me, you come after me, you want to run, I'll defend myself, or I will do this, you know? So it's that condition. He's putting that
Mr.
condition.
Salif, he threatened to kill the president. He said that.
Okay, can you quote him directly, Mr. Fier?
Yes. So first of all, he
And
alleged
that was my next question.
Yeah, but
let me give you the scenario. First, he alleged that the DEA officer or some DEA officer were being instructed to go after him. He's alleging that is coming from the executive or through the DEA. And the goal there is to assassinate him, he said. And now he's saying, if they come after me, I will go after President
Exactly.
and I will kill him.
Right. So let
That's
me so my question for, let me start with Legend on this one. My question here is, President Darius DeLong threatened to storm President Weah's convoy. Also, during the election, candidate Buakai said, if the elections are rigged, there will be no Liberia. Let me just paraphrase.
Yeah, there will be no more Liberia.
Yeah, there will be no more Liberia. And the way the UP explained that to us, they say, well, if you're not going to rig the election, why worry? Right? So Yeka now is probably you playing from that same playbook and say, well, if you will not come after me, why worry? What you say to that, Mr. Legend?
Right. Like
because
the
both of them are
letter
using
brother,
conditional statements.
Mr. Sirleaf said, you know, yeah, this is an intricate matter, and Mr. Sirleaf said something very important just now when he said he's either playing by a very smart lawyer that's advising him or something in that nature, because he gives you a supposition. If your people attack my family or me as a person, then I will do X, Y, Z. You see, that makes it so intricate. So if you do not do nothing, like you highlighted, Dennis, the case of the election, if there's no rigging of election, you should have no reason to be jittery over somebody taking action thereafter. Same with somebody highlighting Senator Dillon threatening to storm the president's convoy. That was precipitated by something that had happened.
Yeah, they
and he said threaten him, for which reason he said, if you people do this to me, I will do that. But this is right. We all know the story, but this is kind of slightly different from what we were discussing with Mr. Yeke. His inconsistency with jumping from one side to the next side, and he was just consistently on one side and doing this. We'll say, well, he's consistent.
That is
but
the part that I don't get.
He did it to the powers that be.
No, but he could be anti-establishment.
Today he has shifted to the
anti-establishment. In other words,
it's all about him maintaining his. It's all about him maintaining his political base. If I may, it's all about him keeping his base and keeping his group to himself. He wants this popularity that he has with the people who are opposed to the powers that be, and this is why he enjoys. Because of this reason, he will not stop doing what he's doing. This is my perception. This is my standpoint on it.
Mr. Nabwe, your friend Sam Wallo keeps saying he threatened the president. So, and when I even use that example, he said that's a defense. It's not a defense. I'm bringing this up so we can discuss it. That's how good I am, Sam. But you don't get it.
Well, yeah, I don't know. He threatened the president. I don't know about that, but like my brother Wisa is saying, he uses supposition, if and then this. But what also concerns me, the what is lost in this whole, rigmarole with Yeke, I think the young lady who is being brought into the public glare. I think that is something that we all have to be careful about, because I understand she's only 14 or whatever. So I don't know what is going to come of that. I also have to state, I listened to the conference by the honorable on Sunday. He did not explain his relationship with this child. So now he's alleging that he's been set up, and I listened to Mr. Sirleaf saying, there must be some rules in the Senate. I mean, this is probably what he's afraid of, because he clearly, it looks like he's going after a minor. I think Yeke is in his
And what does that picture really show? I've not really been keen. Does that picture, if a minor gets in your car,
right?
So what is being alleged, and how can this be, established?
Right. It's left to interpretation, much of it, because the pictures, you don't really see anything much untoward, but what you see is, there seems to be a conversation. If you look closely, there seems to be an exchange of something. Looks like she's being handed something, and at some point it looks like she's either entering or must have, or is coming out of his car or something.
And what picture? I mean, what does that mean?
Well, the commentary now to the photos are telling us that this may have happened around some hotel or something. So
isn't that complete nonsense?
The stretch seems to suggest that, either
right. But is that nonsense, right? That
I think it is
somebody enter a car, and that mean what?
Right. I think it could mean nothing. It could mean something. But what I'm saying is, he hasn't spoken to it, even though he's alleging that he's been set up. So that's something there to be said. And now I know we're all really against Yeke, and for good reason, because of his presentation. But like we all are saying too, sometimes you have to listen to what he's saying. Of course, unfortunately, he tends to step on his own message. But if the UP people are going after him because he has started calling them out, that is something we all need to pay attention to, because this is something we all, including the very people in the UP government, that we've all fought against over the years, So I can't sit here and convince myself that Kofi Woods, for instance, or Larry Toba, or Anthony Kessely, or the likes that we all ran the streets with, will be in a government, and it will come after an individual for expressing what they believe, or the expressing opposition to the government. So that's something that needs to be looked into, because he said he did file a complaint with the security agencies and nothing has been done about it. So that's what concerns me too. What about the people of District 10? What are they getting out of all this? Because he's a lawmaker, he represents their interest. How is this going to allow him to be an effective lawmaker? I don't know. It seems to me like the people are being shortchanged here. So that's something too that I think needs to be looked into. So I think there are a lot of moving parts here. Luckily, at least, I think much is not being said about the girl. The third part of it is,
but because there's nothing there about the girl to really say, right?
I can't assume that, Dennis. I'm not.
Dennis,
it could be interpreted either way. It could be interpreted.
I mean, what I see there is the picture. Let's assume she's a minor.
Right.
And the threat it poses to her, showing her out there and say, this is the person, this is the person.
Yeah, but let me ask you, Dennis, if you have absolutely no relationship to a minor, you just get up in the street and
how do we know whether it's a relationship or no relationship?
But that's why he's supposed to explain to her.
There's nothing in the picture to tell us.
For him.
I wanted to read on the threat against the president. I have
Just before you come in there, I am also concerned too with the I don't want to say collateral. There are a lot of people that he's bringing into the fray who too are not supposed to be there. You know, the president's family, other female on other networks. You know, that is also very concerning, and I think that is too much of a collateral damage that he's bringing into the fray, and he needs to also be talked to. So I wanted to mention that as well. You can please go ahead.
According to them, the president's son came out and said, or gave a emoji or something. But I don't know that detail. But let me read something on the threat to the president from the Pinnacle 14.26. It says, threats against the president and successors to the presidency. A person is guilty of a felony of third degree if he threatens to commit any crime or violence against the president of the Republic of Liberia, the president-elect, the vice president, or if there is no vice president, the officer next in order of succession to the office of the President of the Republic of Liberia, the VP, or any person who is acting as president under the Constitution and laws of Liberia, by a communication addressed to or intended to come to the attention of such official or staff, or under any circumstances. I'm not a lawyer, but what we saw is the NSA asking a reporter asking the House to hand over Yeke for questioning. NSA. I mean, according to if that happens, if Yeke threatens the president, I think you should get the call from either the police or the EPS. Where is NSA coming from?
Well, and they do.
No, that's a national security issue.
Yeah.
No. NSA does not investigate national security issue. That's not their role. NSA is
intelligence
on intelligence.
The intelligence collector, intelligence analyst, but then they have.
But what they could do now is to have a surveillance on Yeke now to see if he's going to do something. But
you don't know what they found. You don't know what if NSA is part of the national security.
Right. So, but for NSA to call for questioning, that is not the role of the NSA.
Why not? They're a law enforcement agency.
That's the police.
They've always done that, Dennis. They've done that over the years.
Give me an example, Mr. Namwe, where they have done that.
Oh, the NSA has called in students all the time. They even what do we call it? They will tell you for months on end.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah, exactly. They do the investing whatever they investigate.
Right, they do that covert investigation.
Covert. So you're saying that this is not covert? Is that what you're saying?
No, I mean something happened yesterday, and the next day you go and say, "Come, let me talk to you." That's the police should do that, or the EPS. Not.
Yeah, you don't know, Dennis. You don't know what what probable cause they call it, right? In criminal law, you have to have the certain two elements: the intent and the action. So, if someone expresses something or they suggest that they will do something that would threaten the national security of the country, then you begin looking at that person to see if they'll act upon that threat or that suggestion of problems or something that threatens the foundation of the national security. So let's say Honorable Yeke Kolba threatens something or says if my former security is now in the DEA, and then they send that person to kill me, and if they come after me, I will kill this person. He expresses that. And then security people now are following and looking and observing and studying and looking at every contact he's making. Is he actively doing something in materialization of that thing he verbalized earlier? It's, for instance, you say Army himself. Is he organizing a militia? Is he talking to people to engage in violence that would threaten the peace and security of the country? So the NSA has a role there. They can call you. They can call you for question. They can collaborate with other joint security forces. It could be the LNP. It could be people in the National Security Agency. People in the National Security Advisor's Office or something like that. I mean, you can't have an individual threaten the peace of the country if you know you have intelligence that they're acting upon words that they've expressed. and not do anything. I don't know how NSA operates, but as far as I know, there are law enforcement agencies.
They've done it all the time.
I spoke with an NSA, former NSA officer on this before coming on the show, because the story says the NSA has asked the Speaker of the 55th Legislature to turn over one of his colleagues in person of Honorable Yeke to report to them within 24 hours or risk being arrested by a state authority. And I followed this up today, and I talked to NSA officers, former, and they said this is not the rule of the NSA. If there's any threat on he has open threat on the president, he should be called by the police. Or if that's on the president, the but the NSA should be. Go ahead, Jimmy.
I'm sure if the last time, if you heard an exchange between the IG and Senator Dillon at the Senate one time when he was called there, the IG told him that he has been under surveillance since he made that remark about a Stony Weir vehicle. Since he made that, he had been on. So whether they are announcing it or not, you can be sure that the police right now have opened a case on him, and they are observing his activities. It's just like my brother Nambi was saying, the NSA used to follow them long.
What we've done.
When they were in their days, the
only difference was they will come and say, "Well, you can drink your beer," and then they'll tell you, "I'm following you."
So he is on surveillance. He plays
that I agree can be, but for the NSA to act like police now, they have never done it in the history of the NSA. But let me get to the point here on the duplicity, right? Because I myself was being accused of the duplicity in this case. So I have to, and you can hold me accountable here. A lot of times these things happen and people voice out, say, hey, this is wrong. Where do we start talking to stop this kind of culture of profanity? Because if you talk now, they say, well, why didn't you say something 6 years ago? If you don't talk at all, they say, you've been, acquiescing or complicit with what is going on.
That's an easy
one
question.
Of those people that was insulted by, or whose name was called, I had a post that I stand with the person. They said, well, did you stand with Cloud Weir? Did you stand with Joel Howard Taylor? Did you stand with Judy Andy? And the list goes on and on and on. So what do we do in this case? If you didn't stand yesterday, do you stand now, or you just let it slide?
So where does it start? Obviously we can't go back and undo what has been done. But one of the things that would take a long time to arrest this will be for us to restore, our moral and cultural, morals. But however, I also believe that right now, one of those voices that will be most effective in this current state will be that of President Weir, because Yeke
or President Boakai?
President Weir, not Boakai. Right now, Yeke has declared that Boakai is his enemy. He is now with the opposition. So now the opposition, whose camp he's on, I think they need to come out and tell him, look, Yeke, we are not going to tolerate this. You need to knock it off. Yeah, right now, not President Boakai. I think, and like I said earlier, I think when they are with us and they are lobbing the grenades, we should hold their hands and tell them stop. I think that is going to be more weighty than those of us who they are throwing the grenades at. So I mean, this is not calling President Weir out or anything, but I just believe that now that he's in the good graces, I don't know who's in good graces, whether he is or Yeke is. But now that they apparently are buddies, I think he should come out and tell Yeke that this is not politics, and you need to cut it out.
Mr. C, how do we avoid this duplicity? I listened to one of the network where a lady was interviewing Prophet Key of our president and said, "Oh, I understand the difference between, I think, sweet sugar and bad sugar, some silly stuff, right? But why don't, since you're cursing men, and I understand, in other words, I agree with your reason for cursing men, but why don't you, I mean, for cursing women, but why don't you curse men too? Because men and women have private parts too. So she was a kind of way agreeing with the vulgarity and the nonsense from Prophet Key's mouth. Duplicity. How do we avoid this duplicity? What do we do, especially now, to put an end to it, Mr. C?
And then is the individual you're talking about. It was shameful on that individual's part to have said that. But the other thing is, it's just that maybe the person has some amnesia, because Prophet Key has a history of insulting men as well. He has gone after former Justice Minister, what's his name, Musa Din. I remember President Walker's top
surrogate. He went after DeLong too.
He went after DeLong, yeah. President Walker top surrogate, George Preston Lobo. He had called Prophet Key and said, look, I brought a complaint. I want you to handle this person for me. This is Walker top surrogate reporting Musa Din to Prophet Key and instructing him to go after Prophet Key, Musa Din, in a more vicious way. My memory is sharp on this. So, and now it is this very George Lobo now who is saying Yeke Koluba needs help, but he said nothing against Yeke's behavior when Yeke was denigrating Wia and other people. Look, so I say that to mean that, to say that, these individuals have been insulting everybody, men, women, of all. Now, another part I don't want us to forget here, Dennis, the Liberian women, some Liberian women, I should put it right, are the greatest supporters of the individuals. If you look at Costa, most of his supporters are women. If you look at Prophet Key, most of his supporters are Liberian women. In fact, on social media, Liberian women insult Liberian women more than men insult Liberian women. This is a reality. Most of these so-called, social media, influencer, whatever they are, it's all about going after another female or another Liberian woman in a vile and vicious way. And their husbands and men are just there helpless. They don't even know what to do. I don't know who is going to call us to order as a society. I don't know what we're going to do to call us to order. I really don't know. Maybe it can start with an individual responsibility. If my sister is doing it, I should call her out and ensure that she stops. If your sister is doing it, if your wife, your girlfriend is doing, it has to be a collective and individual responsibility to stop this kind of nonsense, because it disgraces us as a society and as a people. And, I'm not sure many people are going to have that much respect for us. I watched a video of this person talking about, women in Africa. And, she mentioned Ghana, she mentioned Nigeria and Liberia, what they do on social media. And the scenario is that Liberian women are on social media to insult other Liberian women and denigrate them.
I saw that.
Whereas Nigerian women are using social media to teach other women, how to do business. And then the Ghanaian women are all about, oh God, how God will bless you, and that's all they use social media for. So that was very telling. We are at a place where we need to pay attention to the vulgarity and this duplicity. And that is the duplicity part I'm coming to. Yeke viciously went after Joel Howard Taylor. Unity Party people celebrated him because Joel Howard Taylor at that time was with the CDC and they wanted to bring the CDC down. This guy said all manner of things against this woman. All right. And the Unity Party people said nothing. Yeke was their best friend. Yeke was the one Joseph Walker would call and send anywhere to campaign. Knowing that Yeke was this vile against other political leaders in the country, but Yeke was an access to him. And here we are. What moral authority does he have now as president of the country to say Yeke called this nonsense must stop when he benefited from the very nonsense? All right, the profanity of this skill and magnitude that is eroding the trust of our society. But how be it, President Bouaka, I think he's in the right place now to do something about this. The legislature has to also act. This is a member of this August ballot that is behaving in this way. They need to call him out. They need to call him out. They need to do something about his behavior. I don't know who is in the best place to hold him accountable with this behavior than the House of Representatives where he serves. They need to do something. They can't let this thing slide. That man cannot keep going this way on and on and on. It is an embarrassment to us as a country. So now we're talking about the people of Oro. Why the people of Oro continue to elect this person? Because the leaders in the country, all right, continue to let the people of Oro down. Now they are living in buckets. They are in the heat. And Yeka is saying you are in the heat because the president is stealing money, and the legislature allotting so much money to them instead of putting more money in LEC. And so they say, well, this man is speaking for us at least. And that's why they continue to elect Yeka. I disagree with them because what Yeka is doing does not take them anywhere. Anybody can do that. They need to find a better representative, but I think they have a reason for maintaining him, and it's all because of the failure of the system.
I mean, politics can be very dirty, Jimmy. Look, I want to give you one last example, and then we can conclude.
Okay.
Let me give an example of Henry Costa, who was cursing people in favor of Bouaka. During the election, the second round, when he went to the weird side, I mean, he was vicious. I mean, there is no society in Liberia where you can stand and curse people, let alone an elderly person. And he did that. Elections are over. What happened now is probably Costa, I think it took a week to take pictures with some UP higher ups, starting with my friend Amara Connor, Ibrahim Delon, and the rest of the people. And the UP people went at it. They were posting, no, you can't do it. But these people, because of, they call that political capital, they continue to tolerate this kind of behavior. And as long as we have politics, we want to win elections. Some say you're going to dance with the devil, or you're going to swim in the purple water. This thing is going to continue. I don't know if you see any insight.
But this thing ties in with everything, my brother. Our society has degenerated. Even the school systems, the power, electricity systems, the water systems, the sanitation systems. What we're looking at, witnessing, is a degeneration of our society. And it has not been put to halt. In fact, the war exacerbated everything. There has to be a conscious decision by not just the leaders, but our Liberians themselves to not want to go down this road. Morality is something that is in your heart. Is you have a sense of what, the kind of person you want to be. But we have allowed ourselves to be courted by profanity, by indecent behavior, by looseness, all kinds of stuff. We are allowing this thing, the corruption. The whole system has been corroded. It has now become a system where very immoral in all aspects. So this is just another byproduct of that degeneration. And for it to be reversed, first of all, where do we get our moral code from? Number one, it's supposed to be a sense of godliness. That's what the Christians, Muslims alike, they get their sense of moral code from their faith, the way they should behave. Even our poorer societies and sounder societies, they used to teach them a code of ethics, of where they're behaving. Everything has been destroyed.
Yep.
And now we're seeing the aftermath. I don't really when I look at Yeka, I know Yeka, but when they killed that boy parents and he had to become a child soldier, are we surprised that we see this today? This thing we've been through has led to what we're getting today. So what the questions we should ask when we talk about it, what do we need to rehabilitate ourselves? More after war, and people need rehabilitation. People need to go through a psycho analysis so they can begin to restore their faith in the norms of their society. We have not had that psychological rebuild. So, and we just allowing this to continue after war, and especially the type of war we had, a Pharisee where we're killing each other, brothers killing brothers, and grotesque and inhumane. We need a rehabilitation. I think a lot of our investments, besides just building roads and all the systems we need to bring back on, but we need to rehabilitate the Liberian, the everyday Liberian, so he restore his faith in his moral code. And we've lost that, and it needs to be restored.
Yeah, I have a call number, but no one calling, so we're gonna close. At this time, I want to get your closing comments. The two issues we've discussed: war and economic crime codes, and then the politics of profanity. Mr. C, you go first.
So the war and economic crimes court, now we have a joint resolution from the legislature. It is a law that we must act on as a country. That law empowers the executive branch of government. President Bouaka has an instrument now to use. He wanted that, which is a good thing, and he has it. He should now take it and run with it, and there's no time to waste on this. Let him get to the Americans who have expressed willingness to help. They promise that they will give money in order, assistance to make sure that this happens. The United Nations is also one institution the president now needs to contact immediately. He has that instrument that gives him that authority to do so. And the quickly he acts on this, the better it will be for us, because this thing is going to be costly. We will need money. We'll need all the help that we will need to make it happen. Now we come to the politics of profanity, complicity, and duplicity. It's not going to start. I mean, it's not going to stop now. Bouaka is not going to stop it. The other political actors that are coming are going to stop it. It's been a little over 18 years now. Liberia has been governed by the Unity Party and the CDC. They are the one who have given us, the two political institutions are the catalyst of this behavior coming from their supporters and surrogates. They don't call them out. If Liberia can give us a fresh start with new faces of political leaders who will be able to stand up and give us the change that we need, then we will have a change from this behavior. But in as much as it will be Unity Party, it will be CDC, we'll see the same thing, because their behavior has worked for them. It's the vehicle that they use to come to power. The likes of Costard and many others who behave in this manner, these are the people who are the political big guns that bring the vote to them, they believe. So their tactic has worked for them. They were not going to stop it now. So until the Liberian people can give up somebody like Ahmed Salif, who has no interest to run for office because he doesn't trust the Liberian people will vote for him. And
how do you know that, man?
Yeah, brother, please.
I was about to ask.
Yeah.
Please allow me, but you have my vote, big brother. You have my vote. I don't think our people are going to vote for you. It's a sad reality. We can give it all. I mean, think about it. Cummings is not a bad guy. He gave it all. He has the resources. Cummings went everywhere, brother. I mean, where there are people for him, they reduce him from 7% to 1%, brother. This is a reality we're talking about. All right. I can take you to my people in Grand Crew. They'll be telling me different things. This is here, you've been here, we don't know that.
But Anthony, Anthony.
I'm
It is
closing, and you guys interrupted me on my closing. It's
I don't
so
want to
juicy.
interrupt you, but it's the people you have to restore. They're gonna keep on voting for those kind of people.
Hold on, let me conclude. We got to close.
Yeah, we got to close, gentlemen. I know I'm bringing something that you guys like.
Cut it short.
Yeah, so Dennis, that's what we have to do. We have everything we need now to get a war crime code going. To change the behavior, we need a change of leadership, and that's the only solution that I see. I submit.
Thank you. Mr. Wisse, you're closing.
Is he frozen?
Well, in my closing, I'll firstly like to state that we all have to come to the fact that we have to admit that we've enabled this behavior in our honorable lawmaker, Honorable Yeke Koluba, and we must start by calling him out now, like everyone trying to do on the various social outlets, and try to confront him constructively first. And if nothing is done, something has to be done. We cannot be occupying such position and continue to rain insults on presidents and top officials and other people in government. Now, as far as other people who sit in the diaspora and run their show the way they like to do so, we can either opt to listen or not to listen and criticize them from afar, but we can only but do so much. That's just a harsh reality that I'm putting out there. But the country is starting to get on its right path. It's taking a while, but we see that this government came to shift things and it's starting to shift. The whole idea of welcoming and signing this war and economic crimes code, I'll call it a huge plus for a brand new government, and we look forward to seeing a lot more, because this is the paramount reason why this government was brought into power. The people wanted to see something different than what they saw on a very famous soccer player who womanly handed state power. He was literally gifted state power, and he abused it because he had people around him who were not well-meaning. Even if he had good intention, it was not going to work out, because hiring people who have no good intentions or doing what is right by the people was never going to make it come to fruition. So in that light, I like to say, long live our common patrimony, Liberia. And like I always say, as we grow in age, it's my ardent hope that we'll all grow in wisdom. Thank you.
Thank you. Jimmy?
Yeah. I oppose to what Anthony and what Risa said. I agree that we need to have some temporary fixes or some superficial fixes, but it will not fix the country. It's like when you have a cut, and if that cut gets infected, you may have a scab that grows over it, but underneath it is infected. So even though that scab has covered it, you will see that sore will come back. We have to sanitize our society. We have to teach certain things, get them to believe and espouse certain things that will allow them to grow. By simply, war crimes code will not change the psyche of the Liberian people. It's not going to change it. Maybe you may find some people will make amends, but we need to go to the root of the problem. And the root of the problem is to give Liberians their pride back, let them believe in themselves, in a moral code that they can live by and prosper by. That is even more important than just simply bringing somebody else.
How you do that?
But you do that by campaigns. You do that by education. You do that by radio announcement. You do that by publications. We're not spending enough.
What's the ETA on that?
It all depends on how much you put in it.
Oh, okay.
Okay? But the more you propound people with the knowledge and the benefit of changing the way of thinking, then they will see that benefit. But you have to go to the core of the problem. And that is the way we think. And we have to restore the faith in ourselves and the way we should live, not just how we want to live.
James Victor Nambwe.
I'm sorry, I was muted. Yes, thank you, Dennis, and thank you all. Great show as usual. Yeah, on the crimes court, I think this could be a counterbalance for the grudge the way this government was rolled out. It's not going to be the cure all and save all, but if it is handled properly, I think it has the potential to increase the credibility of this government. It has the potential to even edge this president's name in the record books. This is a huge this problem. It has several offshoots. This problem of transgression with impunity. I think the Yeke we discussed at length today, I think is a product of that. Yeke is threatening to fight again if he has to, because he knows he can go and fight and come back and be an honorable man. There is no deterrent. So if this government handles the erection of this court properly, there is a lot that will be required. I think that many of the people in Liberia today have lost appetite about this. There will be a lot of re-education necessary. I mean, the war happened over 30 years ago. So a lot of people around today, they need to be re-educated on why this is necessary, why we must bring closure to this. So if this administration does well with this crimes court, I think it has the potential to increase their cred. As to the brand of politicking today, it is unacceptable. There is no way, I don't care which way you put it, it is never going to be acceptable, whether it's for or against you. And I think we need to be unanimous in rejecting this, all well-meaning people. And all of us inclusive, whether it, CPP or whether it is, NDPL or CDC or the UP, there can be no time when this is acceptable. There is no politician who can come in a public square and insult your wife and children and go with impunity. Again, the same culture of impunity. So I think we all need to stand up to this. It will be a bitter swallow because I know a lot of us are pandering to these people, but we need to really, really face up to it and call it for what it is. It is unacceptable at any time, anywhere. Thank you again. It was a great opportunity to be with you. I appreciate the opportunity. I look forward to coming back again.
Thank you. Mr. Salib, you got the last word.
Thank you, Dennis. Thank you, everyone. It's really great discussion. Listen, I don't have a whole lot to say on the profanity side of things, other than to quickly say there are some people who thrive in chaos, who that's how they function, and can be rabble rouser that way. On the war and economic crimes side of things, I was very pleased today to see the Senate action, to see Senator Dillon really, expand upon what they had done and inspire hope. I think in what this process could look like. If not, we can learn from others in other countries, the different ways of going about this. That some can be what they call internationalized court, which is to have the UN backing. UN, you hear different terminology. UN back. It only means that they pass a resolution, that maybe they put some money there, and they're providing technical support. You can internationalize it, which is to make it a hybrid. As I said earlier on, with foreign judges and lawyers, Liberian judges and lawyers, and different professionals to collaborate to give it a national support and acceptance, but international credibility as well. There's some that are totally international. I mean, like the International Criminal Tribunal for Rwanda, former Yugoslavia, and there's some that are embedded in the domestic judiciary, like in Cambodia, there's it's part of the what they call the high chambers of the Cambodian courts to prosecute former Khmer Rouge officials who committed atrocities in that country. So there are Liberians who have studied this thing, who have, academically have done work with it. The international folks we've worked with who have done this thing. We can bring some ideas and just support the administration if they really truly want to do it, and do it in such a way that it will produce the kind of outcome, justice, and address impunity, because in a way it will also serve as a deterrent in other areas, not just from somebody bringing civil war and kind of large level of destruction we saw, like a war, but those who engage in other types of crimes in the country, economic crimes, plundering and pillaging of the resources, just some petty things that we consider people go with impunity, and it continues to destroy the fabrics of our society. So I believe it's needed. I support it 100%, and I'm very encouraged by what the legislature is doing. I think now the executive has the authority to begin moving this forward to see how far we can go with it.
Thank you very much, and thank you, gentlemen, for the time tonight. I want to thank our viewers, those who are watching now and those who will watch later. Until then, we close with our song that says, "We are all Liberians." Have a good night, and God bless you.
We are Liberians. Liberia is our home. Liberian people. Liberia.